This summer, Instacart is bringing back your favorites from 1999 with prices from 1999. That means 90s prices on juice pouches that ought to be respected, 90s prices on box mac and cheese, and 90s prices on ham, cheese, and cracker lunches. Enjoy all those throwbacks and more at throwback prices, only through Instacart. $4.72 maximum discount per $10 of eligible items. Limit one offer per order. Expires September 5th while supplies last. Discount based on CPI comparison.
Out here, it's not only the amazing views, but the way time stretches out a little longer and how the breeze hits just right at the summit. With All Trails, you can discover nature's best with over 450,000 trails around the world. Download the free app today.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Doors closing.
Mason?
Back here. Don't freak out, but...
What? Why is everyone asleep?
Every seat. Every single person all out cold. I got on at Forest Park and it was already like this.
Did someone gas the train? Is this, like, a chemical leak thing?
I thought the same thing, but check it out. Calvin's up front driving like it's just another Tuesday. Coffee in hand, whistling off key.
And you're not concerned?
Of course I'm concerned. I'm just choosing to process it by assuming it's a performance art piece. Sleep-themed. Something Dutch, probably.
You don't think it's contagious, do you?
Honestly, at this point, I'd be more surprised if someone was awake.
This is Tales from the Blue Line, my auditory anthology.
Well, speaking of creepy medical phenomena...
Oh, is this a story with the no shadow guy?
Yep, this one actually happened to my friend Jess. She's a nurse in Milwaukee now, but we worked together during my first year. One night in the ER, a guy came in with minor injuries. Nothing too serious. But there was something off about him.
How off?
No one could explain it. He didn't have a shadow.
Come again?
No shadow anywhere. Not under fluorescent lights, not in the hallway, not even from the X-ray machine.
It was a quiet night in the ER, the kind of lull that made nurses superstitious. Jess, a few years into her nursing career, grounded, not easily rattled, was halfway through charting when the front doors slid open and the intake buzzer went off. A man walked in alone, holding a blood-soaked towel against his forearm. He wasn't frantic, wasn't panicked. In fact, he looked oddly calm, almost detached. Jess met him at the front desk. "What happened?" He looked her dead in the eye and said, "Broken glass, I slipped." His voice was even, almost too neutral, like someone reading from a teleprompter. Jess guided him to a triage bed, noting his vitals, normal, blood pressure, normal, alert and oriented. But the first red flag hit her as she reached for the overhead light and glanced at the wall beside the man's bed. There was no shadow. Not a faint one, not a distorted one. None. The light above him cast sharp, crisp shadows of everything else in the room. The IV stand, the monitor cables, even Jess's own hand. But the man? Nothing. She blinked, shook it off. Fluorescence could be weird, she told herself. Angles could do strange things. She wrapped his arm and prepped him for sutures. His wound was deep but clean. A long slice down his forearm, jagged at the ends like real broken glass but too straight in the middle, like it had been guided. She asked more questions. Standard intake stuff, name, address, allergies. He said his name was Julian Mercer. He didn't list an address. No ID. When she gently pressed him again, He gave her a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm just passing through." Jess stitched the wound, but she couldn't focus. Every time she moved around the bed, the absence followed her. No matter the angle, no matter the lighting, Julian Mercer cast no shadow. She tried to rationalize it. Maybe the room had some strange reflective property? Maybe he was positioned just right under the lights? But then she walked past him toward the curtain and caught her own shadow on the fabric, her silhouette standing right next to nothing. Her stomach flipped. She stepped out into the hallway to grab the attending physician and brought him in for a second look. "Anything strike you as weird about our friend in Bay 3? She asked casually. Dr. Reynolds glanced in, looked at the man sitting upright, relaxed, almost meditative. "Seems calm. What am I looking for?" Jess lowered her voice. "His shadow." Reynolds looked again and frowned. "I'll be damned." Julian turned toward them and smiled, pleasant, unbothered, like they were discussing the weather. "You're not the first to notice," he said, "but most people forget a few minutes later." Jess didn't. She asked him directly, point blank, "What are you?" Julian looked her straight in the eye. "Temporary." Then the power flickered. Just a brief stutter. Lights dimmed, machines beeped, monitors reset. When everything came back up 2 seconds later, Julian was gone. The bed was empty. No footprints, no blood trail, nothing. But the sutures she'd put in, the towel she'd used to clean him, still there. Like he'd never been there at all. Except he had. Jess remembered every second. And she never saw her own shadow the same way again. After Julian disappeared, Jess did what every seasoned nurse does when something inexplicable happens on shift. She documented everything. She opened his intake chart, double-checked every detail, and tried to piece together what had happened. The wound, the vitals, the name Julian Mercer were all there, but his chart now had a big red flag blinking at the top. Error. Patient file incomplete. Data corrupted. She tried again. Rebooted. Nothing. Then she checked the security footage. There was a timestamp for when he walked through the ER doors, a record of the intake buzzer, but the actual footage? Glitched. Just static and a frozen frame of the automatic doors, never opening. Jess brought it up to the charge nurse and the night supervisor. Neither could explain it. But here's where it got stranger. The next night, another nurse on a different floor mentioned seeing a man. Tall, polite, with a bandaged arm, walking the ICU hallway at 3 a.m. She assumed he was family, but no visitors had signed in that night. She didn't mention it until Jess asked about the shadow. The nurse went pale. "He walked right under the nurse's station lights," she said, "and I thought it was weird because he didn't cast one." Jess pulled up the ICU hallway camera feed. The same glitch. A full 90 seconds of garbled static. Then normal again, an empty hallway. After that, there were no more sightings, no more reports. But for weeks afterward, Jess heard murmurs from around the hospital. Weird flickers on the monitors, moments where a light would dim or a reflection would vanish in polished tile. Sometimes someone would stop mid-sentence and swear they felt someone behind them, but there'd be no one there. And always in those moments, shadows seemed to fall wrong, or not at all. A few months later, Jess moved to a different hospital. New city, new routines. But the memory of that night, the man with no shadow, never left her. She kept watching shadows more closely. On the floor, on walls, on faces. She couldn't not notice them anymore. It was like a sixth sense had been unlocked. Sometimes she'd catch her own reflection and flinch, half expecting it to come up blank. And then came the letter. No return address, just her name handwritten on the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed, centered on the page. "Your attention made the difference. Most people never see it. Thank you." Signed with the letter J. She read it 5 times, flipped the paper over. Blank. No watermark, no clue where it had come from. And even though she changed cities, even hospitals, she still gets occasional reports from old co-workers. A man in a waiting room who never checks in, a patient no one remembers admitting, a figure who walks the halls at night just out of frame. They always say the same thing. He was polite, seemed normal, but something was off. I don't think he cast a shadow. Jess never tells them what she saw. But every time she hears it, she double-checks the floor beneath her feet, just to make sure hers is still there.
This summer, Instacart is bringing back your favorites from 1999 with prices from 1999. That means 90s prices on juice pouches that ought to be respected, 90s prices on box mac and cheese, and 90s prices on ham, cheese, and cracker lunches. Enjoy all those throwbacks and more at throwback prices, only through Instacart. $4.72 maximum discount per $10 of eligible items. Limit 1 offer per order. Expires September 5th while supplies last. Discount based on CPI comparison.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, I was not prepared for that one.
It freaked me out too. Jess is solid, one of the most level-headed people I've ever worked with. She doesn't tell ghost stories. She doesn't have ghost stories, except this one.
I've got so many questions, like, if he didn't have a shadow, what was missing from him? His soul?
Or maybe he was never supposed to be seen. Maybe he slipped through a crack somewhere and she just happened to catch it.
You know, that's actually worse.
You think it's weird that everyone's still asleep?
At this point, I'm wondering if we're the ones asleep. Maybe this whole thing is just a shared dream from a malfunctioning vending machine sandwich.
If that's true, I'm blaming the turkey pesto wrap. That thing was radioactive.
Just promise me this, if I ever come in without a shadow, you're allowed to hit me with your coffee thermos. No questions asked.
Only if you promise to leave a cryptic thank you note before vanishing into the HVAC system. See you tomorrow, Mason.
You always say that like it's not a guarantee.
With our stories, it's never a guarantee.
Tales from the Blue Line by Auditory Anthology is written and produced by me, Keith Conrad. Your narrator is Darren Marlar. Be sure to check out Darren's award-winning paranormal podcast, Weird Darkness, available at weirddarkness.com and your podcast app of choice. If you have a story you'd like to contribute to the series, you can visit submissions.soundconceptmedia.com or just follow the link in the show notes. You can also support the show by subscribing to our new Substack at auditoryanthology.substack.com. By becoming a paid subscriber, you'll help keep the stories coming. You also get every episode completely commercial-free, and now you can vote on which story will feature in upcoming episodes.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
Lowe's knows to bring your vision to life, it's important to find the right color. That's why MyLowe's Rewards members get a free paint or exterior stain sample to test your look and find the perfect color to confidently refresh your space. Lowe's, we help, you save. Offer valid in-store only 6/19 through 6/25. Limit 1 per customer while supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. See associate for details. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.